Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the heck in the world you are. It's me, the Girl Economist, coming to you live with our main guys here, the men of the hour, the man who's known as not Crypto School, but the Ever Seen Frank. He's here, the Ever Seen. And we also have the one and only Mr. X, and we're going to be talking about financial insurance, real insurance. Hell, man, you got a policy on your car. Chances are you're not going to get into an accident, but just in case. And you got policies on your policy just in case something bad happens, so you can probably see what's going on. Man, it's just really bad jokes today. Really bad jokes. But anyway, anyway. You have these two guys are here. We're going to be talking about financial insurance, how to really protect yourself, right? Because everybody's exposed. Okay, I mean, if you're the average middle class person in America, you, my friend, are exposed. And this is what this program is for. If it's for you not to be exposed, for you to be absolutely protected from harm, protected from confiscations, protected from collections, and this is important. Everybody should have it, and that's just the way it is. You know, why leave yourself vulnerable? You got to be crazy. This is how I operate. The Ever Seen operates this way.
That's how I operate. I used to be called the operator, but that one didn't catch.
No, Ever Seen is better. Like, it sounds like either a drug or some sort of industrial thing.
Hey, we got a question already in the chat. And by the way, we want to take questions today because after these shows, I get so many questions, and I'm like, I don't know, I got to ask X.
Gosh. Okay.
So someone, and I think this may be a joke, but someone in the chat already said, "Do you take pre-existing conditions?" And
yes, we do.
That reminds me of a case that we dealt with this week. And actually, a few. This is kind of a theme with us lately. Like, I don't know if I'm just getting to the next level of understanding Mr. X and what he does, but we had a few cases come up. We had somebody whose wages were already being garnished, and I kind of thought we were too late, so I called X just as sort of a last minute thing, and he was like, "Yeah, we could stop that." And I was like, "What?" And then I got another question from a really nice lady asking if she could get out of current bankruptcy that she was a ways into. And I figured, nah, and I called X and he was like, yeah. So yes, we can deal with a lot of pre-existing conditions. So yeah, the X is always surprising me with something new. I mean, you guys have heard us talk about the basic stuff that we do, which is protect your bank accounts against garnishment, protect your wages against garnishment, protect your home equity against liens. And those are sort of the basic things that anybody who has collections issues should do. And really anybody who ever wants to protect against being sued for any kind of stupid thing, that's how you should be set up. And but the cool thing that's sort of added to our arsenal, I mean, it was always there, I just didn't know, is that, you know, even if you're in some of these conditions, there are some things that we could do to help you get out. So you should definitely reach out to us.
Well, it's all pre-existing because you know, some of the stuff we have people do, they would never do if they have perfect credit and everything's going great. They would just never think ahead until they're on fire, and then they're going to do what we tell them.
Very well said.
It's all pre-existing.
Right. Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah, never do it until the hair's on fire. And
I want to introduce you guys to some new concepts that go along with the basic stuff we've been talking about. Yeah. So, okay, remember back in 2008 or whatever, nobody cared about foreclosures, but then it became popular. 2010, everybody's in foreclosure, or a big segment of the population. And I don't know if you guys realize, but you know, they set us up from the 80s so that they could use the American homeowner as a collateral, okay, for international bonds and securities. So they're using that market. They've been using it to steal foreign pension funds and U.S. domestic pension funds. That's what it's all about. But imagine if when you all went to sign it's like the lock on your front door. I put a lock on my front door, not because I know that some guy's going to come here Thursday night and try to steal stuff. I just think that it's possible that someone could come and try and rob my house. So I should at least put a lock on the door. Well, you're dealing with your friendly bank and borrowing money for a mortgage, and it's your friendly bank and they're all smiling at you. And why should you even suspect them of anything wrong? But you're going to still ask the bank when you're sitting down to sign that 30-page mortgage contract for 30 years, you're going to ask them to print the signature page on security paper. I don't know if you know what security paper is, but it's a little more expensive than regular paper, but here's how security paper works. It looks just like a white piece of paper. When you sign it, everything's good. But if I take it to a photocopier and I make a copy of it, the copy has the word void all over it.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I can't even take a photograph of it.
That's awesome.
So imagine if we all did that. What would that have done to the foreclosure market? It would have killed it before it even started, because they couldn't even lie to the judge about their counterfeit securities and say this is the note, because they wouldn't have had the note. There's no way they could have gotten around it.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're going to still do long-term debt. I mean, some of you like to do long-term debt. Maybe that's your lifestyle. Okay, so do some long-term debt. But from now on, you can go online and get some security paper. It's so easy to do. Just go to your print shop or Amazon or something.
And can you just elaborate on? Okay, so someone can't copy it and reuse your signature, but
yeah.
What else does that do? Anything else for you? What's the logic behind signing contracts on security paper?
Well, the whole reason why the banks were able to steal people's homes is because they can make photocopies of your mortgage and your note, and then sell the mortgage and note for money many times over, and then come into court and then use the court to create a new note using the judge's signature. That's what they were doing. And the only way they could do it is the attorney comes in there and has a fake witness that says, yeah, that's the note. And then you don't know any better, and you go, well, I guess that's my signature. And then voila, you got yourself a new note. You just fabricated money.
Wow.
Money. That's what they were doing. So if you had security paper, you could go and testify and say, well, judge, I never signed long-term debt on plain paper. I use security paper. And if they don't have, if this is the original, then why is, how are they able? That is not the original. You can authenticate your signature. They will not be able to counterfeit it.
So, so what types of circumstances would you do that? Signing a mortgage,
long-term debt, long-term debt. I wouldn't do it for a lease agreement, because those aren't dealing with, they're not in the securitization. I mean, maybe they are.
Long-term debt.
I haven't seen it yet. Okay, so car notes, home loans, commercial lease agreements.
So how would you go about that? Are you bringing like a stack of security paper to the signing and saying print it on this?
Yeah, I would. Yep.
That's cool.
I would because that's like, I mean, you get to decide. I mean, you're not changing the terms of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in your interest. So you just tell them, I don't need to explain myself to you, but if you want to know, I just want my signature to be secured. And I've been reading the news, and I see how the banks, have data breaches all the time. And, I don't trust you guys. This is my signature, and it's worth a hell of a lot of money. And if you want it, this is how I'm going to give it to you.
Wow.
And that's what you do.
So for a mortgage, for a car loan, for
long-term debt, 7 years or more. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
In markets where not even credit card stuff, because that, you don't even sign anything anyways. You just go online and do something.
Yeah.
The only other thing you could consider doing, like this, or one more thing, which is an embossing seal, which is what corporations use to seal signatures.
Mm-hmm. You
could get one for yourself and put your name on the seal and put a little image or something if you want, and then you just press it down on the paper and it makes the form. The imprint.
I'm gonna put the doofus from your avatar there.
Yeah, okay, do that. Sure. Right.
It'll be just like a nod.
Why do you always mock him, Everseen? Why?
No, because he told me he literally looked up doofus in a suit, and that became his avatar.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. No way.
I right clicked him and uploaded.
That's why I love that guy, because he's always looking at me at the bottom of the screen. And it's like, oh yeah, there's the fake X. But I just think it would be great to put that on my embossing seal.
Oh my God. So yeah, that would just kill all their security. Now I think the market is going to fail anyways, because you cannot pass it off. You can't even scan it into a computer.
Wow. That's really
you have
cool.
to keep a paper copy, and you should, just like $100 bill. Who gets to copy $100 bill and keep it in an image in your compuer? That's illegal.
Yeah. Wow,
so likewise, you shouldn't do it for a note you signed, because you created the money.
So most of those documents, aren't they done in like triplicate and stuff like that, or is it's just one document and then it's photocopied?
It is. I don't know. You can make copies of the contract, but when it comes to your signature, have the page that's on security paper. One page on security paper.
Excellent. That's so good. Now, what about? Can you? I got a little lost with the embossing seal too. Can you? What would you use that for?
Okay, I would.
Same thing?
Over once I sign it, over my signature, I would put the seal clamp over the paper. So on the bottom and the top, slide the paper into the clamp, and then squeeze down and push down on it, and then it pushes it embeds the paper. It makes it like have fabric. It's what do you call it? It's you've seen the embossing
Makes
seal
it,
before.
yeah, ripply, yeah.
Yeah.
Like what a notary does.
Exactly. Now notaries
Yeah.
today, they use a lot of stamps, but I mean, an embossing seal is like old school, but you can get an embossing seal for like $30. You should have one and put it over your signature whenever you sign it. And
Cool.
and then and your date's there and everything. So the date's on that. So the date is the term of the contract, and that's all covered. So I'm just saying, to keep it simple, use security paper and an embossing seal on important debt instruments.
That's awesome. That's really helpful.
Now this will monkey wrench the whole system. If it gets out and people start doing it, they just can't get around it. They're going to have to accept it. It'll monkey wrench the whole system.
Yeah.
So then we get into something else, which,
because a lot of what you do, just to elaborate, a lot of what you do, you've helped a lot of people with foreclosure issues,
right?
And you'll see. I mean, I know I've been on calls with you where a client, the mortgage company's just doing weird stuff, where they stop accepting payments. They start saying things like, well, we want the whole $30,000 you owe, when we won't accept monthly payments. And I've heard you say, oh, they're trying to take it.
Exactly. Yeah,
and
they need
because
to,
they have issues with the paperwork.
Well, there's that too, because they can use the court to actually recreate the paperwork without even ask the court to do that. There's actually a statute that lets them create a lost note, but they actually use the court to counterfeit the note in a judicial foreclosure. And a non-judicial, all they do is sell the property. Once you exhaust the mortgage lien, then it doesn't matter anymore. The lien and all the whole transaction is completed at that point, because a mortgage is never really completed until it's exhausted. So when you sell the property, then you've exhausted it, then all the bondholders get paid. It goes through the whole market that way. So that's one thing. Now we're getting to an area where security is becoming important, and we're seeing this, like, with two-factor authentication and encryption and online. And I don't want to get too far into that, but I still like to talk about on paper, stuff to do on paper, because we can translate that to digital. But when it comes to giving someone your signature, you have to realize your signature is private property. And so it's recognized in law as private property. Anything that you express in your lifetime, it's interesting. Muhammad Ali's estate, not his estate, his likeness was sold in the year 2004.
Wow.
His likeness. Now he has a valuable likeness, right? Muhammad Ali, fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. All right.
I mean, I have a valuable likeness as well. I'm tired of the fact that it's exploited at zoos throughout the world.
And hey, it might be worth $50 million. Who knows?
Could be.
I don't know.
I mean, they killed Harambe.
Yep.
Yeah.
I took that person, but anyway, that's another story.
So your likeness is comprised of what constitutes you: your image, your appearance, the way you walk, your voice pattern, your retinal scan, right? All these things, your DNA, your signature, okay? And also things that we do that create records, like your credit file, not the file itself, but the pattern, okay? The data itself has value. It has value to other people, not us, because we're not using it. We're not a banking institution, so we can't use it the way the banks use our credit files. But what we should be doing is restricting the use of our signature. So when someone gets my signature, like if I go to a doctor's office and I have to sign something, or I have to give an SSN, how many times does the doctor ask you for a copy of your photo ID and an SSN? Well, how many times do you, in response, ask for a copy of his data retention policy? We should be asking what the policy of that business is in maintaining its records. And it does have a policy. Either it doesn't have a written one, but there's a law that imposes obligations on the company, or it has its own policy because the insurance carrier wants it to have a policy.
Right.
So when you disclose information, and I don't disclose the information. I get around it the way I talk to people, but because when I ask them, okay, sure, I'll give it to you, but what are you gonna? How are you gonna guarantee me against any losses or damages I might incur from a data breach you might suffer? What are your warranties and guarantees to me? How are you going to indemnify me against a data breach if someone breaks in your office, steals my information, and then does something with comes to my house because now he has my home address? He came to my house because he got my information from your office because your office wasn't secure for whatever reason. How are you going to protect me and my family? How are you going to reimburse me for damages? Well, when I start talking like that, they're like, hold on a second, I have to get the manager. He's not in right now, but Tell you what, when we come back, we'll talk about this again, and then they never do because they forget. But always ask what liabilities they're willing to cover. And it's interesting because the insurance companies usually don't cover data breaches that I can find anyways. There's no coverage for data breach. So whoever's asking for it has to cover you. Just like when you walk into a building somewhere like a grocery store, you're being video recorded, and what you say is being recorded, and that's your property. You're giving up your videographic data.
Wow.
So there should be conditions, and you can make conditions like when you sign your name, like we're talking about on the security paper and embossing seal. You can also sign your name, and above it, you can add terms. Like you can put above your signature, you can write non-negotiable. And all that means is that there are additional terms to the use of your signature that are not shown on the document.
Wow.
That is so powerful because you can make your signature expire in 3 days.
How would you do that?
You would send them a
just
notice.
Write it in?
Yeah, you could do it that way too. You could put it on the face of the document. You could write non-negotiable, and then you could put underneath. You could put expires in 72 hours, or give a date and a time.
Give me for instance where you would put an expiration on your signature when you sign for something.
If I'm doing business with somebody and I think like it's a one-time deal, like I'm renting a car and I'm not going to deal with them for too much, very frequently, then I would do it like that. I would say you can't use my signature beyond the time I turn the car in. Because who knows what they're doing with your signature? Because they got your signature on an application. And see, that's where they're getting us on the applications we're using. They're using our name and our signature, and they're creating securities from these applications. And I think car rental companies would do it. Car rental companies, car leasing, not grocery stores, but anytime you're applying for credit. So like at a department store, all the credit applications, they're all doing that.
Yeah, because they do credit checks when you rent cars and stuff. They do crazy stuff.
They do it.
You get an inquiry just for renting a car.
That's right. That's right. Because so why is that? So you got to think about this.
And they do it sneaky. I did one once where the guy, all he did was take, I think it was a credit card, and just putting the credit card in his reader, did an inquiry on my credit.
That's right.
And I was like, wait, you just did an inquiry right now? He's like, and the guy behind the counter kind of didn't really know what was going on. He just knew they needed to check it. Yeah. And he did an inquiry right there at I think it was at the airport. I think, you know what it was? It was when I was coming to see you, John.
Oh,
it was the last time I came to see you in Florida. I remember when I picked up the car, they did an inquiry.
And you noticed it. Yeah, you noticed it. And you caught it, and the guy doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't know what's going on. He's just like, oh, I got to do this with your credit card. Like to him, it's of course I'm going to do it.
Always put conditions on your signature. You put non-negotiable, and then later on you can send them a notice and say, here are the terms. Here are the terms on you using, I did it without prejudice, or the signature expires, or you're going to give me all my data, or give me a certificate that all the data I gave you has been destroyed. Otherwise, you're liable. And you put them on notice, and you just followed up with a letter. Now, most people don't do things like that, but hey, if we did stuff like that, or halfway did stuff like that, we would shut down this whole fraudulent. I mean, I'll tell you something. When you lease a car, your application was underwritten. I'll bet you anything they put a QSIP number on it, and we're trading it. Mortgage-backed securities. So all these people that are like have a money market account, you think your money market account is being funded by stock? It's probably not. It's probably being funded by stupid retail things like fake bonds and mortgage-backed securities that are not mortgages. They're just commercial paper they're collecting from consumers that are doing their everyday thing. Anytime someone discloses a signature and date of birth or SSN, all that's being created into documents and then securitized. Wow. And that's what your money market account is. It's not real value. So you're just feeding the beast that way. But if you put restrictions on it, then they can't do stuff. Now it gets more complicated. You can do all kinds of cool stuff. But I'm just saying, for the purpose of this call, is to consider using security paper and embossing seal, and then consider asking for data retention policies. And if you move out of a town to somewhere else, and you had your local doctor there and your chiropractor and your vet, at least go to those offices and ask for all your data, or a certificate that the data has been destroyed. Get all the originals and everything. Let's say, or transfer. So you need to control your information. Just get in that habit. It's worth money, and your signature is money.
Yeah. Wow, powerful idea.
So I like to show people some of the stuff. Limiting liability. Is there any questions on that?
No questions right now.
They're probably going,
a little quiet in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. So then I get into this issue of, okay, so fine, we do all that stuff, but now what? Okay. So when I protect somebody, my thinking is, you got to make more money, and it's easy to make more money. Okay. And how do you do that? So I always have different things for people, and it depends on what your area of expertise is or what your profession is as to what I recommend or what we arrive at. I'm not going to show you something is totally foreign to your experience.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that people can do because they like shopping for things. People like shopping for cars. I don't know. They like shopping for whatever, high ticket items, appliances. So if you're going to spend time doing that, why not shop for things that you can actually get for cheap, way under market value, and sell them quickly and easily. And if you have, space in your garage, you can do this. And this might be like a little side business. So if you look in your local federal district courthouse, there's Chapter 11 filings for businesses. Now, this is why I'm bringing this up now, because this is going to be like no time in history. We're seeing bankruptcies left and right. And if you're clued into this and you start filing Chapter 11 filings and you see businesses in your area filing Chapter 11, they're going to be getting ready, dumping off furniture, whatever, equipment. You'd be shocked at what things. So I'm not saying you need to like get a warehouse and start storing stuff. What you want to look at is a possibility of picking up some things dirt cheap from the trustee at Chapter 11 filings. There's a procedures you can follow to get products and equipment and inventory out of these Chapter 11 filings.
Wow.
And consider selling. I've known people that do this. They get they like, okay, you look at all these car dealerships, look how they're jam packed.
Yeah.
How many of those do you think are going bankrupt? And what do they got to do with the cars?
Yeah. Wow.
What do they got to sell? We have a movie theater in town, and it's it's real cheap to go there. And the person who bought it, like some guy owns it. It's not a franchise or anything. It's really cool. It's in a strip mall, and I can tell what he did. He went and got office furniture. You know the kind of tables you have in the cafeteria at an office place.
Yeah.
And then you got semi-comfortable chairs and stuff. So he got all the stuff. I know he got it real cheap, and he removed all the chairs or whatever was there in the strip mall area. He partitioned it off with walls, and then he made like 4 movie theaters out of it. And he put all these. It's cool, and he put all these chairs and tables in there, and he made it. He had there's a little kitchen there, so I think it was a restaurant before. And he made a kitchen. So now he serves he has a menu, and he serves chicken wings and tostadas or whatever, cheese chips or whatever. So he serves all that stuff, and people watch movies for $5 and whatever. But it's a menu, so it's a restaurant too. So, but all the furniture was probably free that he got.
Yeah.
So that's an example of how someone would do it. Or so the thing is, so if you find something and you happen to know, well, gosh, there's these things that no one wants in Chapter 11. It's just sitting there, and if I know that I can sell that stuff.
So where would you look to find the Chapter 11 filings?
Go to your U.S. District Court and go online. Okay, you can go online, do this for free. You can go to your clerk of court for the U.S. District Court near your town. You can pick any town. You can go there, or you can go on the internet and you can see what's being listed, and the trustee will have auctions, and you can also approach the trustee if you file the right forms. It's really cool. And I would even recommend, if you want to be serious about this, go to a Chapter 11 attorney who deals with this stuff and tell him, I want to look at these records, and I want to buy some of this stuff. And I want your help, and he'll help you. There's it's like a little business thing you could do on the side. And it's kind of fun because you can, I've known people to buy stuff really cheap. Like I've known people buy automobiles, cars, vehicles, motorcycles, and they just get them real cheap, and then they can sell them fast. Because they sell them at a discount, so they're competing with the flooded market, but they can sell them fast.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about, unless there's some questions on that.
No, nothing yet.
All right, so people ask me all the time, how could I get into real estate? Because people realize, okay, I can get into real estate. I don't have to really understand it because I can learn as I go. There's lots of resources. But how do I get my financing? That's the biggest thing. That's the thing that holds people back. How do I get my financing? And here's how you get it. You need an options contract. You need a contract that's already written. There's 2 provisions that I have people include. One is, and there's all kinds of ways to use the options contract, but the couple of provisions are that you want to keep the first right of refusal. So what that means is, let's say if I bought a duplex from somebody and I bought it on credit terms with an options contract, that means the seller is really financing me the property. And why would he do that? Well, maybe he would do it. Some markets he will, some markets he won't, but it's a numbers game. You have to shop it out. But your best lender is your seller. That's where you start. If you're having second thoughts about, I don't know if I can do real estate, well, here's how you do it. Options contract. In the contract, you write a term that says that you, as the buyer, you have the first right of refusal. And then you can also make a term that says something like, all my payments that I'm making under this contract, if you're going to rent to own, for example, all my payments should go towards the purchase price. So truly, you're making your seller the lender under an options contract. You can do this with an existing lease agreement. Let's say you're leasing a house and you think you can lease it out to somebody else. Get the owner to give you an options contract. Now, if he doesn't understand the market, he'll just give you the contract if he's a nice guy and you have a nice conversation one day. If he's in business and he really wants to make money, what he'll probably do is ask that you pay for the contract, which is fine. It just depends on what you want to do. So you might say, fine, I'll give you an option to buy this thing in 90 days or 180 days or a year, but you're going to pay me $1,000 for the option.
Right.
Okay, fine. And if it expires, then I keep your 1,000. Okay, fine. That's a business. So, but the options contract can be worth a lot of money if you know how to use it, and you can walk around. You can go find like I found some dilapidated house just today. I can just go over there, and if I can find the owner, and with an options contract in my hand, if I can have a nice conversation with him, I mean, just hand it to him right now. Now, right now, I got my financing. I don't have to go somewhere and talk to somebody. Now here's a cool thing. Let's say I get an options contract. Let's say my whole object is I get an options contract, and I have the right to buy this property at, let's say, 50% off market value.
Yeah.
All right. So I can go tomorrow and I can sell my options contract because I gave myself the first right of refusal in the contract. I can sell it for 60% or 80% of market value. So I can just move our options contracts. If you want to get into real estate and you don't want to deal with all the stuff, you could just quickly, if you can find deals and find buyers.
Yep.
There you go. Options contract.
I was a friend of my brother's. We went to a seminar that he was putting on, and basically that's what the guy does constantly. And it's all about that options contract. It doesn't cost him much, and in most cases he makes an absolute fortune off of it.
If you spent 2 hours a week doing that, you could make another 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah. It's excellent. Yeah. And by the way, I know you've talked about this. Who's become rich and famous playing options contracts? Right?
Oh yeah. Well, Trump, that's how he built his empire. I mean, Trump did that. Trump would go to a place in Manhattan that nobody wanted. It was a dump, literally a dump. And he would see a big, castle there, right? So he would go to the owner who's like thinking, what, this guy's crazy. Why does he want to buy this place? And he would get an options contract. And then he would go raise his capital and build it. And that's what he's done. Options contract. Yeah.
Yeah. The man himself. So that's awesome stuff. Let's circle back to sort of like you said, these are sort of next level things that people want to do. And I'm always getting questions about just even where to get started. What are some of the sort of basic first steps that you'd recommend for somebody to set themselves up? And we talk a lot about being uncollectible, about protecting yourself. Where would a person start? Like, it's cool to do all these fancy things, but a lot of the people we deal with are, still totally vulnerable in the way that they manage their finances and their businesses and their wages and their home equity and stuff like that. Where would a person start?
Well, most people have liability when they have the right to sell something or right to spend money. If you have the personal right to sell something or personal right to spend money, then that's pretty wide open. You're vulnerable. You're exposed, as they say. So what you want to do is cover those liabilities with a company or a third party or a trust or some arrangement. The easiest thing to do is a limited liability company. So at least make a list of all the things you have the right to sell and where you have the right to spend money, like a personal bank account. And then the other thing, as far as security, on your signature, it'd be interesting to make a list of all the places you've given your signature, SSN, date of birth, copy of your photo. Oh my God, it would scare you. And then you got to think, what happens if one of those companies go out of business, or what happens if one of those companies is breaking some law or gets accused of breaking a law and there's a drug violation, like a pharmaceutical something, and all of a sudden the whole place gets seized, and what happens to your records?
Yep.
Yeah, so you just got to think about this stuff. So find out, like, maybe there's a business you used to go to a long time ago and you gave up your photo ID and you don't go there anymore. Right. You may want to go back and check and see if it's been destroyed and get a certificate that it's been destroyed. So make a list of all the things you have the right to spend or sell. Make a list of all the places you've given up your data. At least do those things, and then consider, restructuring how you're doing. Like, here's one thing I recommend. Don't get mail at your house in your personal name, in your legal name. It's so easy to do. Even your apartment, you can just do that. It's so easy to set that up. And then reduce the amount of mail you're getting.
What do you do? So you're talking anything you have the right to sell. So these are the cars that you own. These are any
Right.
valuables that you have. So how would you put them under your LLC? What's the process that a person goes through to do that?
The easiest way on a car that you're driving, that you're using, it's not a business. You're not driving a limousine where you're getting paid. It's not a Lyft car. Okay, it's not Uber. Okay, it's just you're driving to work with a thing. All right, I would put a lien on it. I would use a company. I would use a limited liability company. I would not own it with the company. I would put a lien on the car because it's so easy to do it that way. And your insurance stays the same. Your taxes stay the same. Nothing changes. Now, if you want to go to the next level, yeah, own the car with a company, use a trust. That's complicated. You don't have to do all that stuff. At least put a lien, but use a company. So that allows you to have a company, let's say a limited liability company that I use I do this for personal use. I use it for paying my bills. I don't pay my bills. My company does. And all I use it is for that. All right. So I can take that same company and put a lien on my car, and I'm not mixing liabilities if I do it that way.
Okay. Explain that again. So you're using, you have an LLC that you use for basically all your personal stuff.
Yeah.
It's not one of your businesses.
Exactly.
In other words.
Yes.
So this is your personal LLC, and it doesn't own your car, but it has a lien on your car.
Right.
And then it pays the bills
exactly.
as well.
So that way, so like say, for example, let's say maybe I'm a property manager and I'm receiving, money from my the properties I'm managing. It's a business. Well, I could take that business and put a lien on my car, my personal car. It's my business. I could do that, and I would not mix the two liabilities because the property management business is a separate type of liability from, because in other words, if someone's going to sue my business as a property manager, it's going to be for a completely different set of reasons than if he's going to sue me personally.
Yeah, there's a little wall there between them.
Yeah.
So someone can sue the one and it doesn't hurt the other.
Yeah, and it won't connect them. So if I had my property management business owned by an LLC and it also owned my car, that's a no-no.
Okay.
I'm connecting two liabilities, and if I'm driving drunk one time and I injure somebody and the family sues me, well, okay, so now my business will be attached to that liability.
Yeah.
But if I had just my business put a lien on my car, no big deal because I own my car. Go ahead, sue me. It's all separated. So yeah, I would just use an LLC to put a lien on my car, and then I could use that LLC for other purposes. I'm not limited. Or if I just own my house with an LLC, then you got to be concerned about. So there's a question of like what jurisdiction. If I own my house with an LLC, I don't want to have a different tax situation.
Right.
I don't want to lose my homestead exemption, so you got to be careful on that. But if I'm gonna lose my homestead exemption, what I'll just do instead is I'll put a lien with my LLC. I'll put a second mortgage on the property.
Yeah, which is what we do most of the time. We're just putting a lien.
That's the most. You could do that all the time without even thinking. You could everybody can do that. Just cover any of your equity. Just make it for the equity.
That's one of the basic things we do at Remain Calm. If someone has especially collections, or if someone just wants to become uncollectible in general, is we help you put a lien against your property. Yeah, right. Very helpful. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're running out of time because I got some calls coming up, guys. But John, do you have Mr. X rather? You want to give people your information where they could learn more about all this stuff that you do and teach?
Yeah, there's a download at aceofcoins.com.
aceofcoins.com.
Yeah, it's a PDF download. Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got all our stuff, which Mr. X helped us put together at remaincalm.net. If you want to become uncollectible, you can set up a call with me and sometimes John if we need extra help. But most of the time I can tell you what you need to know, and we can get you set up so that you have this sort of basic setup of being uncollectible. That's an unleviable bank account, ungarnishable wages, and protect your property against liens. And we can help you set all of that up through remaincalm.net. And we're also doing something that we haven't talked about yet today, and that's the blockchain trust. I still get a lot of questions about this. The funny thing about it, I have a guy, in fact, you and I are going to talk to this guy later, very nice guy. You and I have discussed this. One of the reasons you did the blockchain trust is because there's not enough there's not enough times in multiple human lifetimes to answer people's questions about cryptos and taxes. And so it's easier just to say, set up the blockchain trust.
Can you imagine if you followed my recommendation and then 3 years later you get audited and then you tell the agent, hey, there's this guy that told me this thing, and so it's cool, right? And call him up. No. So I figured I'll write it up in a formal document. So that way you have your record with you. You don't need to call me. Not that I mind, but you have it all on record. So
yeah, very helpful. And the 1099 buster, is that still relevant, or is that ship sailed for people?
It looks like until later in this month is when the last of the 1099Ks will come out.
Okay.
I see.
So there's still time to get a hold of that.
If you get one and it's personal and you didn't sell your cryptos, let us know.
Yeah, and that's the key. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Very good. Awesome. And all that's at remaincom.net as well, folks, if you want to check that out. So excellent. Well, thanks again for coming on with us, John. It's always a special privilege to be able to talk about this stuff with you.
Well, I like doing this stuff. I like corrupting the youth, giving monkey wrench in the system. So we got.
I had a friend of mine. I was telling him this week about the stuff that we do, and she's just just didn't even know this world of ideas existed, and she was just freaking. She's like, wow. She's like, this is amazing. I had no idea you could do stuff like that. Like she had a few little debt issues, and I was like, well, here's how you can protect your wages, because this is what they'll do to you, and here's how to protect your bank account. And she was just freaking out. She was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, and she just immediately saw, this person who doesn't really, not in our world, right, of thinking about these things, but just immediately saw and knows from personal experience the injustice of how the banking system just comes after a person. Mm-hmm. This person has an old credit card that they've been paying for 20 years that won't go away, and anytime they miss a payment, they get jacked up with some kind of huge penalty. Not a tremendous amount of income there, and man, it's just around her neck at all times. And so here I come along saying, well, you know what we can do? Like, this is what they're going to do to you if you default, but this is what we can do to make it totally meaningless if you default. Right. And it was opening our eyes to the possibilities, and it's just so cool to be free and say, man, I don't need to be a slave to these people.
Well, do you want to think about maybe next time we do this call, like next week, maybe? Mm-hmm. Do you want to cover the idea of a captive insurance for your own car?
Yeah.
Because are you sick and tired of paying the insurance? I mean, it's a different way to think of it. You got to take on some risk, but it's manageable. Yeah. If you're a good driver, if you're not a good driver, be honest, and you shouldn't do it. But if you get too many traffic tickets, you're probably not a good driver. So, but I mean, it's funny because I went to insure my mother-in-law, and she wasn't offended. She's just like, because we're all pragmatic. I insure my wife because I taught her how to drive, so I have to take responsibility for that one. But I insure myself, and it's on me, But my mother-in-law came here, and I'm like, you have to go to Geico or something. She's like, okay. So you got to be pragmatic about it, but you can carry your own insurance and screw these guys. You don't have to pay premiums every year, and use your organization that you set up to invest.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk
about that. I would love to do that. I'm paying an assigned amount of money per year in insurance. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I pay a lot too. Yeah,
it's disgusting.
Whatever it is probably too much.
Oh, dude, it's like over $4,000 a year.
Oh man,
for 2 cars.
Got to be illegal. All right,
for 2 cars, bro.
Oh my god,
I can't stand New York.
And folks should let us know some things they want to talk about too. There's the comments here. There's a chat. You could reach us at RemainCom via the website. Some cool stuff. We're not ready to totally fully promote it yet, but we have the Rogue News Slack chat that we're going to be promoting soon. So we'll be we sort of have that now for the Crypto School, but we're going to rebrand it as Rogue News soon. So that's coming up, and you'll be able to chat with us in there. So cool stuff coming up.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, we are all done. Folks, check it out. Go to remaincom.net and get yourself started. And with that being said, we're over and out.